Thanks for tuning in. Today is St. Patrick's Day, and my son got up out of the bed this morning, and he was terrified that he was going to be pinched at school here. And so what he did was he put on every piece of green clothing he had. I had to explain to him that that's not how it works. All you got to do is have a little bit of green on. But he had on green socks and green PJ pants and a green PJ top with a John Deere hat. And it was, he looked like Shrek from head to toe. He was terrified that he was going to get pinched. And there's a lot of misconceptions about St. Patrick's Day. And so I want to do a quick devotional because I was reading about him last night online, and I noticed that there's a lot of parallels between St. Patrick and what we're learning in the book of Esther. You see, both of them lived among pagans. Both of them spent some time basically in captivity among pagans, and they hid their faith, or at least their upbringing. You see, St. Patrick was born around the year, some historians think it's about 385, but he was born among Celtic Britons that were Romanized, and they had a Catholic faith. And but he didn't really share the faith of his parents. You see, his dad was a deacon and his grandfather was a priest, and he didn't necessarily share that faith. But at the age of 16, he was kidnapped by some Irish raiders, and he was taken to Ireland to serve as a slave underneath a tribal chief. And so while he was there, God began to work on his heart. Like during his time of slavery, God was working on his heart and wrestling with him. And he came to faith as a slave in Ireland. Well, eventually in his early 20s, he was able to escape. And when he escaped, he got to go back to his homeland, and he had a newfound faith. And he lived his life for quite some time as a believer. But at the age of around 48, he received what we call in the church as a Macedonian call. The Macedonian call is something that many of us have received and will receive in the future if we're willing to listen to the Holy Spirit and to listen to God speak through His Word. The Macedonian call comes from Acts chapter 16, verse 9. In Acts chapter 16, Paul receives a vision. And you got to remember that Paul was a missionary. He traveled throughout the land planting churches. In Acts chapter 16, verse 9, it says that a vision appeared to Paul in the night. A man of Macedonia was standing there, urging him and saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." And so that's the vision that he has, that there's a man standing there and saying, "Hey, come over to Macedonia and help us." It would be like you having a dream saying, "Hey, come over to West Jefferson and help us out," or "Come over to Mountain City and help us out," or maybe "Come over to Los Angeles and help us out." Whatever God calls you to, maybe that's the way he would approach it. I don't know. Sometimes we don't get vision. Sometimes we get just an unsettling in our heart for a specific place. St. Patrick actually chose to go back to the people who enslaved him, who kidnapped him, captured him, and enslaved him. He chose to go back to them. Why did he go back? Because his heart was just raptured with the idea that there were a people that did not know God or follow God. They did not know the salvation of God. And he had the ability to communicate it to them. He had the love in his heart. He had the Holy Spirit in his body, and he had the unction to go. But he also had the understanding of the culture. He knew what the Celtic culture was like. He knew the culture of that area. And so he was especially equipped to take the gospel to the people of Ireland. And today, we remember that. St. Patrick's is not all about pounding back pints of Guinness and shots of Jameson. It's a day of remembering someone who swallowed their pride and in humility used the things and the experiences that God has put together in their life to take the gospel to a new people. And possibly God will do that with things of your past, with experiences in your past. It's not uncommon for God to use your past experiences, your past relationships, to use those past things that you may consider mistakes and to use them in a fresh and new way to take the gospel, to take the good news, to take the love of Jesus back to those people that you once ran from. And so I hope this is encouraging to you. I hope that you see some parallels between St. Patrick and Esther. They're definitely there. They both were captives. They both hid their identity a little bit, a lot of bit, and God still used them despite the bad things that happened in their lives. And so I hope that's encouraging to you. Thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share it if you get the opportunity on your Facebook page. All of that stuff helps us get more and more resources out here in the high country from First Baptist Blowing Rock. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you next time.